ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरुः श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवान् च श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधा कान्त नमोऽस्तुते। तप्त काञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरि वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। ईश्वरा परमा कृष्ण सच्चिदानन्द विग्रह अनादिरादिर्गोविन्दः सर्वकारणकारणम्। Hare Krishna. So today we will start discussing from Brahma Samhita. As last time we have seen the text number 36, where as per the mood, how Lord reveals himself to his devotees, that we have seen. Yad bhava bhavitadhyo manujastatayiva samprapya rupa mahima sanayana bhushaha suktairyam eva nigamam pratitaistuvanti govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. Where it is clearly mentioned that as per your mood, as per your emotion that you have for the Lord, according to that one worships the Lord. And next thing is that with suitable prayers, as per his mood and paraphernalia, he engages himself in the service of the Lord. Now, the text number 37, where Brahmaji is explaining about the Swakiya and Parkiya bhava. What is meant by Swakiya and what is Parkiya? That principle has explained in this text number 37. So let's recite together this text. Ananda chinmaya rasa pratibhavitabhi tabhiryayeva nijarupataya kalabhihi golokayeva nivasatya akhilatma bhuto Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Translation of this verse: Sri Govinda, who is all pervading and who exists within the hearts of all, resides in his Golok along with Sri Radha, who is the embodiment of his pleasure potency and the counterpart of his own spiritual form. She is the epitome of transcendental rasa and is expert in 64 arts. They are also accompanied by Sakhis, who are expansions of Sri Radha's own transcendental potency and who are infused with blissful spiritual rasa. I worship that original personality, Sri Govinda. Sripad Jiva Goswami, he has given his wonderful tika or commentary on this verse. where he says, the Gopis with whom Bhagavan Sri Krishna resides in that world are Mahalakshmis, original goddesses of fortune. So when we discussed the text number 29, where it is explained how Lord is getting served by millions and millions of Lakshmis. Lakshmi Sahasra Shatasambrava Sevyamana. So who are those Lakshmis? That has explained in this verse. So those are the Mahalakshmi, the original, that is Srimati Radharani is the original goddess of fortune, whom we call as a Mahalakshmi. So in this context, what does it mean to say that those beloveds of Sri Krishna have the mood of completely unity with him? To demonstrate the preeminence of the Gopis, Sri Jiva Goswami Pad explains here that Sri Krishna only stays in that place where the Gopis live. This is the message loudly proclaimed by this verse. That means wherever there are Gopis, there you will find Gopinath, Lord Govinda. Consequently, the planet of Gopis is called Golok Dham. One meaning of the word go is Gopi. Therefore, Goloka may also be understood to mean the planet where Gopis resides. So Goloka, where Lord resides eternally, that place is the place of Gopis. And to establish this conclusion, Brahmaji is revealing the unique distinction of those Gopis in the verse beginning with Ananda Chinmaya Rasa. The residents of Golok, such as Krishna's bosom friends, his brothers, close relatives, mother, father, and other well-wishing superiors, are all the recipients of his extreme affection. And they are as dear to him as his very self. And that's what it means that Tabhir Yeva Nijarupataya Kalavi. So they are as dear to Lord himself. They are as dear to him as he himself. Nevertheless, Nijarupataya Kalavi means that the function of his own pleasure potency in the form of his beloved Gopis is non-different from his intrinsic form and nature. That means they are not separate from their lordship. Thus the Gopis are a manifestation of his personal potency, Nija Rupa. That is his own personal potency. And they are the embodiments of the most elevated amorous mellows, that is Madhurya. The purport is that they are naturally his beloveds because they are infused with the complete transcendental bliss. Therefore, the topmost excellence of the Gopis has been established by stating that Sri Krishna resides in a Golok with his beloveds, who are the direct embodiments of the transcendental blissful mellows, and that is Ananda Chinmaya Rasa. In the beginning, we have discussed about the Lord's potency, Samvit, Sannidh, and Ladini. So Ladini potency is none other than Srimati Radharani. And all Gopis, they are the expansion of Radharani. Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Bhavitabhis Tabhirya eva nijarupa taya kalabhi. Kalabhi means expansions. So though those gopis, they are the expansions of Srimati Radharani. So here, Sripad Jiva Goswami Pad says, the gopis and their unique distinction have been described by the word prati bhavita bhihi. The gopis are infused by the most elevated and radiant mellow of amorous love, which is Ananda Chinmaya Ras. You reside always and forever with those gopis, means that Sri Krishna has inspired them all with a prema, and that the gopis love him with hearts totally saturated with that astonishing mellow of love. So that means the gopis' love is the topmost love for Krishna, because it is totally saturated with prema. This is clearly stated by the word prati. For example, if it is said of someone pratya upakrita saha, it should be understood from the word prati that first he performed some beneficial work and afterwards he attended the benefit. The word pratibhavita should be accepted in the same way. Thus the meaning is, this context becomes, just as Sri Krishna inspired the gopis with the transcendental blissful mellows, that is Ananda Chinmaya Rasa, the gopis also caused Sri Krishna, who is absorbed in the most resplendent mellow, to drink that very rasa. In this way, the gopis also catered to his highest welfare. Here the word Nijarupataya reveals as even more confidentially meaning of the verse. Since the gopis are the embodiments of Sri Krishna's pleasure potency, they are his parts and are therefore non-different from him. Does it make sense what we are discussing about? Sripad Jiva Goswami here clearly explaining the position of gopis. Generally what happens, most of the Tarkic, the people who try to understand the absolute truth through tarka, through arguments, they don't believe actually that there are gopis and who worship the Lord. And that's why Sripad Jiva Goswami Pad is establishing here that what Brahmaji has clearly mentioned about gopis. He says that they are the Nijarupa. They are the embodiment of Krishna's pleasure potency. So they are non-different from Krishna himself. When he wanted to enjoy, so he expanded himself in the form of gopis. So they are non-different actually from Krishna. So further, Jiva Goswami Pad says, hence it is not possible for the gopis, who are all Mahalakshmis, to be the wives of others in the unmanifest pastimes of a Gokul, Goloka, in the same way that they appear to be wives of the others in the manifest pastimes. Manifest pastime means when Lord appeared in Vrindavan and he performed different pastimes, especially the Rasa Leela. There we have seen that gopis who apparently got married with the different gopas, and all they came and took part in the Rasa Leela. If you understand what we have discussed, then you will come to know that in Goloka there is a Swakiya Rasa, where all these gopis, they are his wives. And to enjoy more intensity of that love, when Lord appears in this material world, so he makes sure that all these gopis, they get married with the gopas, and still they are attached to the Krishna because they are his potency. And that attachment is called as a paramour, or the love between the paramour, the lover, and loved one. And that intensity is much higher than the love between the husband and wife. It is intense. So to enjoy that intense pastimes, Lord has manifested that Parkiya rasa in this manifested pastimes. In Goloka, they are Sri Krishna's own beloved wives. Just as a wife is sometimes impelled by playful curiosity to arouse some special eagerness in her husband by using her veil to conceal her face, like ghungat odna. Similarly, Yogamaya crafts the experience of paramourship in the manifest pastimes of Vrindavan in order to intensify the feeling of eagerness. In Sri Krishna's manifest pastime, there is an actual situation of paramourship wherein the gopis are apparently married to others, but in the unmanifest pastime of Golok Vrindavan, only the self-conception of being married to other exists in order to nourish the mood of a transcendental paramourship. These are very technical things, but once we get more purified in our heart, then these things we can understand very easily. But right now, let us read, get purified our ears by these wonderful narrations. Now, at this moment, we may not understand this, but if you keep reading and praying to the Lord, then you will realize this knowledge, this wonderful relationship between the Lord and gopis. So further, Jiva Goswami Prabhupada says, Goloka Yeva. Here the word Eva emphasizes that in Goloka, Sri Krishna resides eternally with the gopis as his wives and not as his paramours. The Gautamiya Tantra also confirms this in its explanation of the 10-syllable mantra of realization of the eternal unmanifest pastimes. Aneka Janma Siddhantam Gopinam Patir Eva Va. Sri Krishna is husband of the gopis who have attained perfection after many lifetimes. Therefore, the purport emphasized by the word Eva after the word Goloka is that in the Goloka pastimes, the gopis are only related to Sri Krishna as his wives and not in any other way. So here, the position of gopis, who is the and who amongst them who is the topmost, that has explained in this verse. The Radha Tattva that Brahmaji has explained very nicely in this particular verse. Then this particular personality, who always reside in a Goloka Vrindavan, and as previously Brahmaji has explained that he is a Achintya. It's very difficult to conceive anything about him, and who always resides in a Golok Vrindavan, which is beyond this material world, and the conception itself is very difficult right now for us to understand because of our material consideration, because we are living on the material conceptual of a life, that is on the Dehatma Buddhi, the bodily platform of a life. So how is it possible for us to see that Supreme Personality of a Godhead who always resides in Goloka? And Goloka is, as Lord says, that it is Paramadhama. It is beyond the capacities or conception of our bodily senses. So in the next verse, Brahmaji, he explains who can see that personality. In the next word, text number 38, Brahmaji says, Premanjanashurita bhakti vilochanena Santasadeva hridayeshu vilokayanti Yam shama sundaram achintya gunaswarupam Govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. Translation: saintly persons whose eyes of devotion are smeared with the salve of prema or anointed with a prema always behold Sri Krishna within their hearts as a Shyamasundar, the embodiment of inconceivable qualities. I worship that original personality of a Godhead, Govinda. So here he clearly defines who can see him. Who can see him? Premanjana Chorita Bhakti Vilochanena. Bhakti Vilochanena. And Anjana, the eyes which are smeared or by the ointment of prema or devotion to the Lord. The person who has that sort of eyes can see the Lord in their heart. That means if someone has an intense desire to serve their Lordship, to love their Lordship, then his heart becomes Goloka, and Lord comes and resides there. And that Lord is seen by the saintly person with the ointment of love. In the commentary of this particular verse, Sripad Jiva Goswami says, although Sri Krishna resides in Golok and his qualities are inconceivable, achintya, he can nevertheless be seen by the eyes of devotion that are anointed with the black salve of unconditional love. Therefore, not everyone realizes him in the same way. His darshan is available according to the degree to which one has developed prema. Consequently, the depth of realization of Sri Krishna depends on how much one's sadhana is infused with a bhakti. Therefore, it is said in Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, 2nd chapter, text number 42. Bhaktihi pareshanu bhava viraktir. Realization of Bhagavan depends upon the measure of one's bhakti. Furthermore, those whose heart are filled with the deep feelings of possessiveness can realize Sri Krishna all the more. Thus, the level of a perception of Sri Krishna's sweetness also depends on the intensity of a prema. So in here, actually, the particular form of the Lord has explained. What he says, Premanjana Shurita Bhakti Vilochanena Santa Sadaiva Ridhyoshi Vilokayanti. So what they see, the saintly person in their heart, he says that Sadaiva. Sadaiva means continuously, always. They are seeing their Lordship in their heart. And which particular form? Chakradhari? No. He clearly mentions that particular form of the Lord, which is Shama Sundar. That is the original form of the Lord. The Shama Sundar Swarupa is Krishna's eternal form. And it is personal and endowed with all qualities and attributes. Achintya Guna Swarupa. With inconceivable gunas, with inconceivable qualities and attributes. And simultaneously impersonal and devoid of material qualities and attributes. So here the impersonal means what? He does not have the material personality because he is such an Ananda Vigraha. His body is not material. And the next one is because he is Achintya, so all controversies they resolve within him. He is Sakar also and he is Nirvikar also. He is Guni, Sagun also, he is Nirgun also. Saguna means with the qualities. Nirguna means without any qualities. Without which qualities? Without any material qualities. So he has all spiritual qualities. Nirakar means he does not have the material form. His form is eternal and spiritual form. Satchid Ananda Vigraha. So all controversies, they resolve in the Supreme Personality of a Godhead. And saintly person can see this form within their hearts in the trance of devotion. When your heart is full of devotion, then you can see their Lordship. Otherwise, even though he is in front of you, you will not see him. You cannot relish. You may see him, but you will not relish the sweetness of Lord's form. For example, Duryodhana. Duryodhana, Dushasan, all they have seen the Lord, Shakuni, but they never relish the sweetness of Lord's form because there is no love in their eyes. And contrary, Vidurji, Bhishmadev, Dronacharya, all they relish that form of the Lord. And in the previous session, we have discussed one particular verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, chapter 43. Krishna kills the elephant Kuvalayapida. There in the text, Krishna kills the elephant Kuvalayapida. There in the text number 17, it is clearly mentioned the same Shyam Sundar, when he entered the arena, the wrestling arena of Kansa, even though he was one person, but he appeared or he has regarded differently by different personalities. That depends upon their emotion, the kind of devotion that they have for the Lord in their heart. And we have seen when he came there, like Mallas, Mallana Mashnir, all the wrestlers, they thought about a thunderbolt. He's tough like a thunderbolt. And same time, Niram Naravaraha. Niram Naravara means the men who assembled there, they thought that they regard him, they thought that they are the topmost among the males. And the coward men who were there, they thought that he is one of them. And that was really tough. Same time, like as he appeared like a thunderbolt for the wrestlers, he appeared like a Cupid for Gopis. The women who were there from Mathura. All they thought that Smaran, Smaro Murtiman. He looked like a Smara, the Cupid. They had that love for Krishna as a paramour, as a lover, beloved. And Mrityar Bhojapati. Bhojapati is Kamsa. For him, he looked like a death personification. Because that kind of a mood he had for Krishna in his heart. Tattvam Param Yogina. For the great yogis, they thought that that's the object of their meditation. And Vrishninam Paradevaditi. For Vrishnis, he is like a most worshipable personality. So revelation of God, or that's what we can say, the darshan of the Lord, that everyone can have according to the degree of devotion that they have for the Lord in their hearts. That we need to understand from this. The color of Sri Krishna's form as a Sham Sundar is not blackish color of this world. Generally, Shama means black, but he's not that black. But anything black in the world, it is always taken as a negation or negative thing. But here, the Lord's form and his hue is Shama Sundar. Which Sham? Ghanasham. Navambuddha Shamala Kanti Angam. His Kanti, his bodily hue is Ghanasham or Navambuddha Shamala. It's like a color of the clouds, newly clouds, which bears that Sham color. So that we need to understand. So further we can see that you can't pursue their lordship through your material senses or your material realizations. Unless and until you have love for him, you can't see him. And Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, 7th chapter, text number 4, where it is explained that how Vyasadeva has seen him. How he has seen him? Bhakti yogena manasi syammak pranihite amale pashyat purusham puran. So Vedavyasji has seen that Purana Purusha with Manasi in his mind. With his mind he has seen him. And Amale, the heart which is free from all sorts of material condition. Through that heart, Vedavyasji has seen that Parama Purusha. Bhakti yogena, because he had that intense devotion of the devotion for the Lord, and that's why he was able to see him. So when we consider Srila Vedavyasa's trance, we find that Sri Krishna's Swarupa is complete, and that he is the complete personality of a Godhead. He only appears in the heart that is infused with a bhakti. When Krishna displayed his manifest pastime in Vraja, devotees and non-devotees could see him, but only the devotees could adore that Krishna of Vraja as the greatest treasure of their hearts. This is because they were imbued with the loving disposition. Those whose hearts were devoid of bhakti could not realize his sweetness. Like all the demons, they came to kill him. As the same, the Gopas and Gopis, they got attracted to Lord by seeing that wonderful form. The same form was seen by all these demons, but there was no devotion, and that's why they were not realizing the sweetness of their form. Even though they saw him directly in front of them, face to face. Like there's a nice story, like once Mirabai, her husband Rana, he asked her, I wanted to see Krishna. She said, okay, come, I will show you. And she took him to the temple which they had in their palace, and she showed, he is Krishna, Giridhari. No, he said, no, 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 not this one. I wanted to see that original one, 5,000 years back. Then she gave a smile and she said, he is that same Krishna. But you are not able to understand him. What to speak of you? When he was 5,000 years ago, when he was present personally, even Duryodhana, he was not able to understand him. He thought that he just Gwala, one of the coward men. He never considered Krishna as the Supreme Personality of a Godhead. He never realizes that sweetness of Krishna's beauty. He was just thinking that he is one amongst the Yadus. So unless and until you have a devotion for the Lord, you can't see him. Even though he is present directly in front of you. Even nowadays also, devotees cannot see him directly. But they do see him in their hearts. Because that heart is laden with the love for Krishna. Aplavita, inundated with the love for Krishna. And with that love, even today, they can see him while performing pastimes in Vrajadham, in Vrajadham, with the eyes of devotion. Prema Anjana Shwarita, Bhakti Vilochane. Lochana with a bhakti, with the eyes of devotion. So those eyes develop according to the advancement of one's bhakti, one's devotion. And in turn, the pure vision of Krishna's Swarupa is available proportionately for us. The degree of love that you have for Krishna, same degree of Krishna's sweetness, Krishna's beauty will get revealed to you. And when sadhaka, he performs his sadhana bhakti and makes really a good progress in his services, his love for Krishna, then he attains this bhava stage, where this particular realization comes, as Brahmaji has explained. Who can see the Krishna? Those who are on the bhava stage. In that stage, constantly one can see their lordship as a Shama Sundara in their heart. That's what Brahmaji wants to tell us through this verse. And Krishna has wonderful form, Navakishora. As in previous verses we have seen that he is like a Adyam Purana Purusham Navayauvanamcha. Navayauvanamcha means always youthful or newly. Navaya Mana. His beauty is ever increasing. Each and every moment he looks more beautiful. He's a Natavara, he's a Gopeshwara. And those forms are not imaginary. These are the real form. This is the Swarupa, the eternal form of their Lordship. And that can be seen only by the eyes which are anointed with the love. So we will stop it here only, because next verse is explaining about Avatari Tattva. And next time we will elaborately discuss on this particular verse, because there are so many things that we need to understand. Generally, people, they carry misconception that Krishna is expansion of Vishnu. He is an avatar of Vishnu, eighth incarnation of Lord Vishnu. But that's not true. Then what is the truth about him as an incarnation or the person who incarnates? That in details we'll discuss in our next session, in the next verse, text number 39, where Brahmaji has wonderfully explained about this. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.